Mountain Blade 2 is a large game with tons of hidden information and tips. In today's video, we're going over these tips and tricks of Mountain Blade 2. Tip number 1, the encyclopedia. Now, I was playing this game for hours upon end, and I couldn't find anybody. I searched high and low, and I tried to ask around, but honestly, you don't get that far. If you just simply press N, it'll bring up the encyclopedia, and oh my god, this is useful. It shows you all the settlements, heroes, troops, kingdom, clans, and concepts, and honestly, this is a game changer if you don't even know it exists. You want to find the best troop for you can go through the units and search through and maybe build the army you want to build in the future. Or the most useful thing I find is when you click heroes, you can find literally anybody in the game, and with a simple click you can find out where they were last seen. This is extremely useful when trying to complete the first quest. Simply click it, click track, and simply by zooming out it will highlight where they were last seen, with a little white circle next to the village or city. The encyclopedia can also be used if you don't exactly know what you're searching for. There is a very good little search bar at the top right. You can literally search anything you want, and it will give you a list of anything below that. So if you're trying to find a unit, a settlement, a person, or anything, that will help you. Tip number 2, looters. Looters are a great enemy type. It's the lowest that you can find, and they are great for building up your army and getting renown quite early on in the game. Looters are the best thing that you can do earlier on in the game, as they can help you get to clan tier 2, which opens a large variety of extra things that you can do, such as joining another faction and many more. A helpful tip for getting looters is that if they are faster than you and you want to try and get them, which sometimes can be quite difficult if you're having just infantry or just archers quite early on in the game, you can use you're obviously smarter than the NPC, so you can use that to your advantage to pin them somewhere that they can't get out of. For example, here I have 14 looters pinned in this little bit here, surrounded by rivers. I can simply follow him, and no matter what, he can't get out. You can also use the arrow keys to walk properly, so if you do want to play it properly and probably get them pinned, you can move and get them right in the corner, and there's nothing they can do. Another helpful thing with tip 2 is troop safety. Troop safety is very important early on, as you might have more archers than infantry just to weaken the army before they even get to yours. A very good tip that you can use is simply running at them yourself and splitting them off into many different groups. It won't work this way because it's me and my cavalry, but if you do get away enough, they will split into 2, and half of them will start running all the way back to your men. This way your archers can do as much damage to them, hopefully killing them off before they get to you, and then by the time that they're dealt with, you can go back to your army, and then you're only dealing with half the size. Tip number 3, renown farming. Renown is extremely important early on in the game, as you need tons of it to be able to get a high clan tier to build your army and finally start your kingdom. A great thing to do early on is to take out as many looters as you can, as they are very weak and gain an alright amount of renown. A good thing to keep in mind though is that if you have a smaller party than the group of looters that you will be going against, let's say you have 4 people going against 6 looters, then you'll get a lot more renown if you're going against 6 looters with 6 men. Another great thing that you can do early on to get renown is tournaments. They will get you free renown if you win it, and if you turn everything easy, you can win them quite easily, and it's a great way to get started in the game. This tactic can be done all the way up until clan tier 2 or even 3 if you do it long enough. Tip number 4, being a trader. Being a trader is a very good way to make money early on in the game. If you go to any city, so I'm at Orcs Hall right now, and if you go to the trading section of the city, you can also find if there's any good deals, or you can also find out trade rumours. For example, if I go to grain, the money will be highlighted in green, and if I go over it, it says it's 0% cheaper than average. Yellow, so it's about the same price, but you don't want to get anything that's red. For example, it's 60% more than average, which is terrible. But if you find something that's good, so if you have a look at flax, which is 16, it is 6% cheaper than average. I recommend finding something that's a lot cheaper than normal. I personally would make sure something is 50% cheaper, and that will definitely make a profit if you go somewhere else. If you look also here, it will also give you a trade rumour of how much that is sold for in this city. For example, it's only sold for 34 and here it's 64. To get trade rumours, you can go to the tavern and simply ask, or every single city that you stop off at, make sure that you go into the trade section. They'll update it, and the bolder that it is displayed in is the higher chance and the most recent that trade tip is, or trade rumour. If it's greyed out, it probably will be gone by the time you get to that city, so Honestly, if you're trying to do it, make sure it's 50% cheaper. We can go cheaper than that if you really want, if you find it, and make sure you go by the boldest statement. This way you'll be traveling around selling things for way more than you bought them for, and it's honestly a great way to make money. Tip number 5. Workshops. Workshops are a great source of passive income. For example, if you go to a city, for example I'm in Octo again, in the top left you can see productions. So this has 3 villages nearby. One does hardwood, one does clay, and one does flax. So the best thing I would suggest is getting a workshop and making sure that it does carpentry using the hardwood that it receives from a nearby village. To find a workshop, it's very simple. You just click take a look around the city, and as you begin off, when you walk through the gates or wherever it pops you down, if you hold the left alt button, it will highlight any point of interest. For example, if you have a look around, there's a linen weavery over there, there's a tavern, a clearing, backstreet dungeons, and a smithy. So I'm going to go to one of those, the tannery or the smithy, and it'll give you options to buy. Now that we're right at the tannery, don't worry, we can change what they produce and we'll be changing it into a workshop. What you want to do is find any shop worker, say I would like to buy this wood shop or just this shop, and it normally costs between 10 grand, sometimes to 20, but normally around the 15k mark. Click yes, and it'll give you a large option of things that you can produce. So now that we know what the villagers produce in the area, we can click a wood workshop and it's done. To have a look at your workshop, if you click L or click on the clan tag at the bottom left and go to other, it will give you all the workshops that you own. It will tell you where you own it, obviously who owns it, which is me, and it'll tell you what it does. So it's a carpenter. On the right side, it will tell you if it's active or deactive, what it is, what level it is, the capital, and the daily wage. And on the far right, it will tell you the income. So obviously this is earning 78 right now, which isn't particularly very good, but over time it can get you a large amount of money. And honestly, that could be around 30 minutes to 1 hour in real life. Tip number 6. Being a smith. Now, being a smith is a very good way of making money early on as well, as every time you defeat looters you get loads of terrible weapons. So right now, if I go to the trade, I've actually kept one item of a looter. It's a rusty sickle, which is only sold for 24 gold. But if I go to the smithy and smelt it down, bear in mind that you do have the charcoal. So now charcoal, if you go over to refine, you need hardwood for charcoal. So if we quickly go to the trade route right now and get some hardwood, once you've bought some hardwood, you can go to refine, make a bunch of charcoal, and then you can smelt this down. So you can see by using that and one charcoal, you will get 2 crude iron and 1 hard. So if we quickly go back to the trade and find out how much was this worth, so it's worth only 24 gold. Now if we go to the smithy and smelt it down, it gave us 1 hardwood and 2 crude iron. As you can see now, that 24 sickle has now made us 130 gold. That is crazy. That's a much more gold. See, imagine if you take out a whole group of looters and get all their weapons. Bear in mind that was just one weapon. That can really help you make a lot of money early on. Now, important thing to take in consideration when you're smithing, let's say you're trying to make a better weapon and you don't have the skill. If you click down here at the top in the bottom left, you can actually select other companions. So let's say you have another companion that's better than you at smithing or being a smith. You can select them here and actually use their ability to create things. Tip number 7, creating parties. If you go into the clan tab right at the bottom here, or if you have a kingdom, you can go to that one and click parties. You can actually use your companions to create parties and they will go around making you money. So now you give them a small amount of people, they'll slowly recruit more and upgrade, and they will go around, they might raid for you if you're in a war, or they'll protect an area, and they will make you passive income. So that's a great way of making money. Maybe not earlier on in the game, but honestly it took me a while to realise how much money they can actually make in the long run, especially mid to late game. Tip number 8, skills. The skill tree took me quite a while to grasp, as yes, I understood how most of it works, I completely forgot about their left side. 3 attribute points are very useful for going into these left side things, and they will dramatically increase how much all 3 of the right side of them will go up. So let's say you want to do one-handed, or you obviously use a one-handed sword more often, and if you don't have any focus points, or if this is a low number as well, it will take forever for it to go up. But if this left one is higher, it will make it easier to learn it, and even more if you put focus points in it, which in the top right here, these are focus points and these are attribute points. Tip number 9, strategy. When it comes to fighting large enemies, let's say you're completely outnumbered, strategy when it comes to actual battles are extremely important, and it's good to know what commands there are and actually how to use your troops to their full advantage. For example, here we have a bunch of archers and a ton of infantry. Now these men by themselves are quite good troops, but when placed together in the correct format, they will destroy anything. I know I'm going only against 5, I'm just showing you one of the best strategies that you can use early in the game or even late game, and it will help you massively. When you press 1, 2 or 3 or even more, it will give you that type of troop. 1 will be infantry, and if you go to F1 you can put them to any position if you want. A good tip is also if you hold left click, if you do left to right, make sure it's left to right, it will place them in that order facing that way. But if you do the opposite way around, so I'm facing towards them left and right, it will make them face that way. Or if I even do it right to left, it will do the exact same thing as facing this way. Now the best way to set up your troops, as I feel, is to place them obviously facing the enemy in a straight line, and make sure that you press 1 again, F3 and then F2, which will put them into a shield wall. This will make them be able to take a barrage of arrows and keep them in the best tight formation, so if you do get loads of arrows at you or if you get charged by cavalry, they can defend themselves a lot better. Archers, I always prefer to have them in front of the infantry, especially in a position like this where there is no hill or mountain, as if there was, I would have the archers and the infantry swap the other way around, as the archers would be a lot more better higher up the hill or mountain, with the people, the infantry, down below protecting. Archers are extremely useful, so to put them in front is a lot better, as if the infantry was in front, it would be blocking their path. Putting the archers in front, again clicking 2, F3 and then F3 again. This will put them in a loose position. This isn't really bothered about early on in the game, but as you get on in the game, it is important to keep them in the loose position, as it will definitely make sure that they are spread out enough so they can all get a good shot. Because what is the point of having them all huddled together with people behind them not being able to shoot? You're just wasting your troops, the enemy will get closer and you might lose. So if I let this play out right now, I'm going to keep the cavalry back there because they're completely useless right now, considering infantry and archers are the basic troops you get early on and are very important to learn how to use. So they're all in, and as you can see, they all have a space and they can all see, and they're already shooting ahead. With the infantry behind them, as you see, look, I've done exactly said not what to do. You want to drag left to right, and that will cause them to look that direction. The shield wall, make sure that all have their shields up and protected with anything that's really coming at their way. So now if you're versing a larger amount of enemies, you want to keep like this until the enemies get not too close but close enough. For example, where this guy is now, I would probably wait until he's double that distance to these men, to the archers, before you get your infantry and get them to charge, which is F1 and then F3 for charge. They will run through your archers and do as much damage as possible. It's a very good idea to have a look at the commands and honestly just to mess around to find out what things do what. But as I've shown you right here, this is my personal opinion on the one of the best setups for most battles. Obviously when you have cavalry and horse archers and pikemen and stuff like that, it does change slightly, as you can put these in other positions to help benefit yourselves from a large variety of other troops. But if you're going against infantry and archers, with your infantry and archers, this is the best position and best setups to use. Tip number 10. Make sure you get companions that you actually need. For example, if I go to clan right now, it will actually see the different companions that I have. And this can be very important, as when you click on them, it would show you their skills. And you need to make sure that you get skills that you actually require. For example, this guy, Mike Calfief, is very good at being a scout. So if I put him as the clan role of a scout, I will now have his scouting ability, and that will help massively. For example, this guy is very good at smithing, so if I go to a city and I go inside the smithery, I can use his skill to make anything I want. For example, I've just entered the smithery, I click this at the bottom left and I can select the smith, and as you see now, it's a lower difficulty, well, same difficulty, but the smithing skill is a lot higher and I'll be able to do it. I was playing this game for hours and hours upon end, and I had no idea about this clan role feature. I thought it did it automatically, and I never actually messed with it manually. So making sure you get companions that you actually like and actually will help you get you a better reputation and more skills and keeping yourself a little better at everything. For example, if you get a healer with a higher medicine and all that type of stuff, you can put them as your surgeon and your troops will heal a lot quicker. So keeping companions completely different from one another is actually a very good thing and will help you in the short and long term. Now that I've gone over all 10 tips that I've got to say, there are a couple of honourable mentions. The first honourable mention is making sure to lock the things that you don't want to sell. Honestly, the amount of times I've done this for a quest for delivering a herd to a city, and I've come past another city and I've accidentally sold the herd I was meant to give away. So when you're in your inventory page, it will normally be blacked out, but if you click it with a left click, it will then make it orange. So now if I go to a trader, for example right now I go to this trader right here and I click this to sell all, it will only sell what I haven't got marked down as important. Honourable mention number 2, morale. Morale is extremely useful for making sure that your troops don't run away, keeping them healthy, keeping them fit, and fighting with a lot more passion. There are many different ways that you can help your morale and get it higher. For example, when you're in the trade, if you get multiple different foods, as I've got grain, fish, grapes, butter, it will massively increase the morale. So if I go to the bottom right here, it will say food variety +5. Another thing that you should probably keep in mind is that when you're in a war, let's say you've got Imperial troops and you're versing the Imperial, or the Empire, sorry. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you have loads of Imperial soldiers and you go to verse the Empire, who also use Imperial soldiers, that can also affect their morale, as they really don't want to fight their own city or their own country, and can bring them down quite a bit. Just take that into consideration. Another honourable mention that I forgot to mention is when you have a spear, if you press X, it will swap its position. For example, right now it is in throwing mode, as you can see by the aiming, but if I press X, I can then use it to stab people with. Okay guys, this is the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Definitely leave a like and a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.